ये इतना घिसा पिटा टॉपिक है कि हम लोग कई बार सुन चुके हैं, बट व्हेन इट कम्स टू इम्प्लीमेंटेशन, I want to know how many people in the house are advising HPV vaccine. Three. It's just 3 people. Just 3. How many of you see cancer cervix in your OPDs? Okay. And once you see the patient coming with cervical cancer, don't you feel like giving yourself a slap that this patient, in spite of me practicing obstetrics gynecology, has landed in cervical cancer? How many of you have had a patient you have previously seen coming to you now with cervical cancer? See, as a community, we are 34,000 gynecologists registered with FOXI. It's not a small number. If each of us does our job well for screening along with vaccination, we will be really able to have an impact. The thing is, we self-hypnotize ourselves that this is not possible. Half of us are busy in delivering, half of us are busy in academic pursuits. But when it comes to basic care of the women, we sort of, जो सामने आता है हम वो करते हैं, proactive होकर हम नहीं करना चाहते हैं. So now we come to why this lecture is necessary. This lecture, this is the flow of the presentation: cervical cancer disease burden, the role of HPV prevention, the quadrivalent vaccine, who can be vaccinated, and postpartum vaccination. How many of you know about postpartum vaccination? 3, 4. Not good enough. So what is the cervical cancer disease burden? These are slides we've seen over and over and over again. More than 5 lakh new cases over the year in the world. It's the 4th cause of cancer in women, and it is the 2nd most common cancer in women aged 15 to 44 years. There are 2,65,672 deaths annually. That means a woman dies every 2 minutes somewhere in the world due to cervical cancer. This is India. Here we have 1,22,844 new cases annually. These are the latest figures, and what we have to realize is that we do not have a population-based cancer registry. This data is collected from a few major cancer registries which are hospital-based. So if you diagnose a cancer and that patient does not go to a cancer hospital, that patient is not enumerated in this. So the true figure could be much, much higher, because like when they were doing VIA in Chennai, it was a government-sponsored program, and they found so much more cancer than they found CIN, because they were practicing VIA and they were finding so much of cancer that the rate would go to about 1 in 400. That was the rate in the initial testing that they did. So this figure is a very, very misleading figure, because we don't have data. We do not have population-based cancer registries. In India, 1 woman dies every 8 minutes. Again, this is as per records. If you go compared to the mortality, breast is 11.5 and cancer cervix is 11.1. So not much to choose from. the incidence of cervical cancer in India is highest among 40 to 64-year-old women. Adult women at risk of HPV is very, very high, and they are the productive years of a woman's life. HPV is a necessary cause of cervical cancer, but it is not the only cause. So HPV is required, but just presence of HPV does not mean the woman is going to get cancer. So those of you who do a HPV test, ideally, as per WHO, you should be doing a hybrid capture technique. If you do genotyping, then mere presence of virus does not mean she requires treatment. She requires follow-up, yes, but she does not require treatment. 7% of cases, HPV is noticed, it is found in cases of cervical cancer. 16 and 18 are responsible for more than 82% of cancers in India, and HPV 6 and 11 are responsible for more than 90% of the warts. It's 16 and 18 is also responsible for more than 50% of vaginal and vulval cancer. So, HPV is a well-established cause of cervical cancer. It is now a relevant factor in other anogenital cancers as well, anus, vulva, vagina, penis, and also head and neck cancers. It is also responsible for other diseases such as recurrent juvenile respiratory papillomatosis and genital warts. Come back to your OPD. Are you now finding more of genital warts? Now with the younger population getting sexually active, I think all of us are seeing more of genital warts, which is very, very preventable. HPV type 16 and 18 are responsible for 70% of all cancers worldwide, and 31, 33, 35, 45, 52 and 58 are the other subtypes which are responsible for the rest of the cancers. In India, 82.7% of invasive cancers are due to 16 and 18. You will be glad to know that I had participated in a study with WHO where we had collected cervical cancer samples from Chhattisgarh and nearby Orissa and sent them to the Barcelona Catalan for genotyping, cervical cancer cases, and there the typing was done and we found this is the percentage of India. Worldwide it is 75%, but in India it is more than 82%. HPV 16 and 18 are responsible. I participated in that study because I was a skeptic. I did not believe in the vaccine, and I thought they are pushing the vaccine and we don't know what strain we have. So from being a skeptic, I have reversed into being a proponent of vaccine, because most of you know that I have been working for cervical cancer for the last 20 years. And I don't see a dent in the incidence. Screening is opportunistic and it doesn't help. So we need something that is able to cover much more of the people. 16 and 18, 6 and 11 are responsible for 90% of warts. So screening, we are all gynecologists, we keep thinking of screening, that it should be well organized. But what is the actual status? If you look all over India, only 2.6% women of the eligible age group were ever screened in their lives. With a 2.6% screening, do you think we will be able to help decrease the incidence? If you do screening, VIA, as the government of India is now suggesting, do it once in a woman's life. If you do it once, the decrease in incidence is to be 13%. If you do it twice at 35 and 40, then the decrease in incidence is 21%. If you do it 3 times at 35, 40 and 45 years, 59%. But if you only vaccinate, then the decrease is 44%, which is again not enough. But if you combine both, then you can see that combined gives a very good result. A single VIA with vaccination, 52%. 2 VIA, 56%. And if you do VIA 3 times, then it is 61%, where you will really see a decrease in the incidence. So, vaccination and screening both have to go hand in hand. Now, these are the questions that we have. Those women who are vaccinated, should they have screening? Yes. Is screening required before vaccination? No. Sexually active women and women with previous abnormal cervical cytology, can they be vaccinated? Yes, provided their lesion has been cured. And women who have been infected with vaccine HPV type but have cleared the cervical infection can also be vaccinated. The QHPV is the vaccine that is used in more than 70 countries all over the world. And there are so many questions about the safety. Every time over the internet you keep getting questions. This is happening, that is happening. But it is a vaccine that does not have live virus. It is not a live attenuated vaccine. It is just the capsid grown from a fungus with an adjuvant which is amorphous aluminum hydroxyphosphate and does not contain viral DNA. It just contains the capsid. So if it has no DNA, it does not cause infection. Just like hepatitis B vaccine, it is a safe vaccine. It is in India, it is licensed from 9 to 45 years of age. It is indicated for preventing cervical cancer, vulval cancer, vaginal cancer and genital warts. The dosage is 0, 2 and 6. But in the 9 to 14 year group, it's 0 and 6. Only 2 doses are required. And if doses are delayed, supposing she's received 2 doses and she's got pregnant, then she can deliver. You do not vaccinate during pregnancy, and after delivery she can receive the 3rd dose. The target is to finish the vaccination within 1 year, but if she has had 2 doses, miss the 3rd, then whenever she comes, you can give a 3rd dose. No dose is 0 dose. You don't have to start over again. If received 2, then she has had a 9-month pregnancy, and then she comes to you, maybe after with a 3-month baby. You can still give the remaining dose to the patient. 9 to 14 years, only 2 doses. Now this is another thing. Is it effective? Is it safe? Yes, it is effective because the vaccine underwent 10 years of trial before licensing. It was licensed in 2006 and it is now almost 14 years since it has been licensed. So in these 24 years, they have not found a single case of cervical cancer in the vaccinated cohort. So you can write, is it effective? Yes, it is effective. So if I say they have not found a single cancer, I mean cancer due to 16 and 18. If there have been cancers, they have been due to a different genotype. But 16 and 18. Now there's another question I used to have. That if you remove 16 and 18, will the others become dominant? Will their number increase? But now we have real world data and the incidence of others has not increased. The overall incidence has gone down. So it is very effective, 98% for 16 and 18 and 100% effective for preventing CIN2 and carcinoma in situ. It has shown 98% 90% efficacy in preventing cervical precancers caused by HPV 16 and 18. But this is real world data. That means the women are not examined before they have received the vaccine. You don't know if they are really naive to the virus or they have previously been exposed. It is very effective against genital warts, 100% effective. Vaginal intraepithelial neoplasia, vulval intraepithelial neoplasia, it is 100% effective. There have been, before the vaccine was licensed, there were 7 phase 3 studies, 29,000 subjects. And after that, there have been 15 post-licensure studies with more than 1 million subjects. Health authorities reaffirm the positive safety profile of QHP. In the WHO position statement from May 2017, that the vaccine is effective. All of you have seen things coming up on the internet. Guillain-Barré syndrome, you've seen, n number of things are there. I think it is for Tabassum to discuss in the next session. But it is safe. I have given it to, I don't know how many patients, but I have given it to my son as well. So it works. A 12-year-old follow-up on the long-term effectiveness of quadrivalent human papillomavirus in 4 Nordic countries. 0 breakthrough cases. Now, the real-world impact after 10 years. So many countries, so many studies. And what is the result? These are the results, as you can see. Very, very few cases reported, whereas more than 3 million doses have been employed so far. Irrespective of study design, declines were detected within 4 years after vaccine availability, even in settings with comparatively low vaccine coverage. In Australia and US, decrease in the prevalence of HPV 6, 11, 16, 18 infection and genital warts became evident 4 years after vaccine availability. Australia and Denmark, where high and timely coverage with catch-up vaccination was done, reductions as high as 57% in CIN2 and 80% in CI3 lesions were reported in the youngest cohorts vaccinated shortly after program implementation. In Australia, they have seen a prevalence of infections by 86% and 76% after 1 or more than 1 dose. In the USA, reductions in 6, 11, 16, 18 infections within 6 years was reported in a nationally representative sample of sexually active females aged 14 to 24 years who received 1 or more than 1 dose. In India, there was a vaccine trial going on in Gujarat and Karnataka. There were 4 deaths which were unrelated to vaccine, but the trials were stopped. The studies were being conducted by PATH and they went on following these girls and they did their immunogenic studies, and that is how we have real world data about what happens when a single dose is given, what happens when 2 doses are given, and what happens when the full dose is given. Because that trial went on for a couple of years and then there were deaths, and those deaths were totally unrelated. There was 1 suicide and 1 girl drowned and there were 2 snake bites. But there was a huge hue and cry, and like we are facing PCPNDT. Similarly, they found that consent में patient बच्चे के मामा का दस्तखत था, माँ बाप का दस्तखत नहीं. So they stopped the trial. Like in PCPNDT they'll say ना कि आपने नंबर में 9 डिजिट लिखा है, 10वां डिजिट छूट गया तो आपने इंटेंशनली गलत किया है. So similarly that trial was stopped, but we have data now covering a lot many years because this trial was, I think, stopped in 2007. And the girls who received the dosage are still better off than than those who did not. What do you say? Yes or no? Yes. Okay. Again, I was a skeptic that a girl is already having low immunity, which is a prerequisite for pregnancy. Now she has delivered and you're going to give her the vaccine. What is going to be her immunogenic response? So I was taken to a trainer's meet a few years back, and they did this study as well. They did a genotype on recently delivered women. They also did a vaccine trial. And what did they find? Ideally, the age is 9 to 14 years when the girl is sexually naive. But the target group vaccination is low. So if you want to increase the coverage in young women, what are you going to do? First opportunity to catch up is after delivery. Early age of first delivery has been identified as a risk factor for cervical cancer development. There are 5-6 studies that we are going to discuss one by one. What is the evidence for postpartum HPV vaccination? This is a study by Rama et al. Opportunity for catch-up HPV vaccination in young women after first delivery. The aim was to detect which type of HPV is there. And what they found that primiparous women aged between 15 and 24 years who had been living in a certain area for at least 6 months, they gave birth at a public hospital and they were more than 32 weeks, they were eligible. They found an HPV prevalence of 58.5% in the young primiparous women included in the study. Whereas the general HPV prevalence is between 5 to 12%. But after delivery, it was as high as 58.5%. Only 17.3% of participants were positive for at least one of the HPV types included in the quadrivalent vaccine, and only 13.3% were positive for 2 oncogenic types. So what does it mean? That at least 82% of your population is going to benefit if you give it postpartum. Only 13% are having both viruses, rest are having only one, that also only 17%. So postpartum vaccination works. Acceptance and compliance, this is a study by Wright et al. And they found that the vaccine is acceptable to the people, to the women when it is given postpartum. They don't have to come again. 97.2% thought vaccination was worthwhile, it was convenient, and they are happy that they participated. Findings suggest that postpartum administration is feasible and there is a high degree of satisfaction. And women preferred, that they are vaccinated when they are already in hospital rather than having to come for the vaccination. Because people will take their child to vaccination 20 times. But you ask them to come for vaccination and they are not so happy. End of study safety, immunogenicity and efficacy of QHP. In adult women, 24 to 45. This is the group we are hesitant about. In groups they'll be writing, only screen them, don't vaccinate them. But what is the result? Those 3,819 24 to 45-year-old women with no history of cervical disease of genital warts in the past 5 years were enrolled. They received the vaccine and mean follow-up was 3.8 years. Vaccine efficacy against the combined incidence of persistent infections, CIN, was 88.7%. Okay? So, long-term effectiveness, this is another question people have. How long will it be effective? You are going to vaccinate a young child will the child need the vaccine again? And what they have found is no case of HPV 6, 11, 16, 18 related CIN or condyloma in the group during the study. Vaccine-induced HPV type specific antibody response, which was durable. There was no fall in the antibody titers and no serious adverse events related to QHPV vaccine or study procedure were reported. So the conclusion is the prophylactic administration of QHPV vaccine to mid-adult women is effective and generally safe through 10 years post-dose 1 and induces durable immune response. What is the data we have in lactating women? What is the position of international organizations on HPV vaccination during lactation? WHO recommends it. Center for Disease Control and Prevention recommends it. The American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology recommends it. Cervical cancer is associated with huge morbidity and mortality in India. HPV causes virtually 100% of cervical cancers, 90% of warts. Combining screening and vaccination has maximum impact on cervical cancer reduction. QHPV vaccine is indicated for preventing cervical, vulval and vaginal cancers and genital warts. It is effective, safe and long-term data in the real-world effective situation is available and it is effective. The studies are still ongoing. They have not stopped and so far there has been no breakthrough case. Postpartum vaccination is equally safe. A woman can lactate when she is getting the vaccine. The efficacy of the vaccine is close to 90% in adult women and it has evidence it is the only HPV vaccine with large 2-dose study in adolescents in India. Again, because of the trials that went on. So this is again a recapitulation what is happening in our country. Barriers to vaccination. As I was saying before this session started, that all barriers in the world are man-made. And if I have a barrier, most of the time I have generated it. The barrier is in me and not in the other person. So we have to decide what kind of barriers there are. There are barriers in the healthcare providers and there are barriers among the patients. So what are the barriers in the healthcare providers? Vaccination is a pediatrician's domain. Why should I get into it? Number 2, screening is enough for preventing cervical cancer. Number 3, counseling patients for HPV vaccination is difficult and time consuming and I don't have that time. Number 4, do I need to vaccinate if my patient is already positive for any HPV subtype? The barriers amongst patients. My girl is not sexually active, so she doesn't need the vaccine. I'm too old for the vaccine. I'm worried about safety. I'm breastfeeding. Is it safe for me and my baby? Will the protection from vaccines last long? And I think the vaccines are costly. So these are the barriers. Let us see how we can effectively address these barriers. Before I proceed to this, I want an opinion of the House. Are you convinced that your patients and you yourself need the vaccine? Yes or no?
Yes.
So because unless you are convinced, unless you think it is safe and effective and necessary, because everyone who's driving a car is very sure mera accident nahi hoga. But still, more than 8,000 people die of accidents in Chhattisgarh alone. So, I am not going to get the disease. It's good to think about, but it is better to be protected. So we start You know, how many of us have had our HPV-HC2 test done? No? 1, 2, 3. Just think, we have the information and we are not acting on it. If we do not act on it for ourselves, we will never be convinced to act on it for our patients. We will always make excuses. So, ourselves vaccinated if you are eligible. So, we go to the questions. Why should an obstetrician vaccinate? Foxy recommends this vaccine. Gynecologists at some point in their life. And so that is where the catch-up vaccination can be done. That is the opportunity. And the third is that number of reasons. And each OPD is an opportunity to convince your patient. Include counseling for immunization as part of routine history taking. Documenting the HPV vaccine recommendation in the patient case file can reinforce the counseling. You know, just write it there, advised HPV vaccination. And one day or the other, the patient will come and ask you, ये क्यों लिखा है, ये क्या करना है, आपने तो लगाया नहीं. You know, and you'll be able to give it. So just write it on patient's ticket. Some gynecologists may feel that screening is enough for cervical cancer. So I think we've been through this slide. That it is screening alone and screening and vaccination, we have far superior results. Counseling patients for HPV vaccination is difficult and time consuming. It doesn't have to be. You know, the first time she comes, you have a flyer or something in your OPD. Then you write it in the ticket, let her go, she'll come again. वो दवाई लिखाने भी आएगी ना तो वो आपसे पूछेगी कि ये क्या है. And that is where, if you are convinced, you can convince. If you are not convinced, you cannot convince. So make your message personal, emotional, with short, meaningful words. If you try to explain science, it will go above their heads. It won't work. So, you know, you can prevent cancer, keep healthy, protect. Something like this. Please, please do not say anything about sex or sexually transmitted. Especially when you do an HPV screening or you give an HPV vaccine. Because when you do an HPV screening and it turns out positive, the woman has it, the husband is unfaithful, what is going wrong, and you know, it creates unnecessary rift in their minds. So never mention these words. It is the science, useful for us, but more effective if you don't convey it to the patient. If my patient is already positive for HPV subtype, we've dealt with that as well, that yes, it is still effective because only 13% women, that vaccine would not be effective for cervical cancer. It might still be useful for warts. The reaction is usually, my daughter is too young, she is not sexually active, so she doesn't need the vaccine. So why vaccinating young is better? Vaccines are for prevention and not for treatment. So immunizing before exposure can give highest possible efficacy because the patient is naive to the virus. So we'll get near about 100% efficacy. Even with the first partner, 30% were positive after 1 year and 50% were positive after 3 years. So just because she has a single partner, so she should get vaccinated, doesn't work. And the cost. If you give only 2 doses, you have decreased the cost by 1/3 for the same effect. A woman who is more than 25 will say, I'm too old for the vaccine. But we've gone through this data that the cancer cases increase with age and 88% can still benefit from the vaccine. So you should give it. In mid-adult women, this is the efficacy. What is the safety of the vaccine? This we've dealt with. It is safe. 300 million doses have been dispensed worldwide. Common question from the mother of a newborn: I'm breastfeeding, is it safe for me and my baby? So it is not a live vaccine, therefore it is safe. It is very safe to the woman. The American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, US, CDC and WHO all recommend the vaccine even to breastfeeding women. Patients worried about long-term effectiveness, they can say, vaccine is given early, the cancer occurs late, will the protection last that long? So we've already been through that data, that so far we have seen no breakthrough case and no fall in the immunity of the women. 14-year follow-up on effectiveness, immunogenicity and safety of Gardasil, 100% effective. Long-term effectiveness. Now what do you think about costly? 92 to 95% of the physicians think that the cost is number one barrier for HPV vaccination. It's the doctors who think it is costly, not the patients. If you remember, I had a lecture in ISCCP in Lucknow, and at that time it was in the news that Indian housewives have, how many millions of kilograms of gold in the world. So, more than half the world's gold is with Indian housewives. They are not poor. The basic thing is we have to convince them that it is necessary. And if we are not convinced, the patient or her mother is never going to be convinced. So, majority of consumers don't see cost as a barrier. Only 18 to 20% consider cost as a barrier for HPV vaccination. Many unvaccinated, 55 to 38% and unvaccinated men, 57 to 49% felt that physicians' recommendation discussion would motivate them to be vaccinated. Cost barrier is more of a physician's perception than a patient's barrier. Effective HPV vaccination counseling and strong recommendation is all it takes to save women from cervical cancer. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ashil. It was a wonderful lecture. Just I wanted to know, is there any guideline regarding vaccination of boys?
Actually, there are more than 40 countries who are giving it to boys. But India has still not licensed it for boys. The market is not able to keep up. In our country, that vaccine will be available next year, probably 2020. If not, then 2022. So, don't wait for it कि जब वो आएगा तब वो करेंगे. What we have today is what we need to use. And in the future, if needed, I think you can get that vaccine as well. Today, do the screening with HPV-HC2. Today, give the vaccine to your patients. Let us all do our bit in saving our women from cervical cancer.
But the dose is the same with boys also.
Yes.
Same dose. 0, 6 and 0, 2 and 6.
0, 2 and 6.
Is there any particular
cheap vaccination?
Yes.
Have Chinese people come up with cheap vaccination?
No. Nanovalent is even more expensive. MSD is the only company that is making nanovalent vaccine. They are the ones exporting all of it to China. It is not, and you know what? You are an IVF person. Do patients ask you कि HCG कितना महंगा है और ये FSH कितना महंगा है? You say ये तो लगाना पड़ेगा और वो लगाता है. So the barrier is in us. It is not in the patient. You give them data कि हम 100 लोगों का करेंगे तो उसमें से 50 का सक्सेस होगा, 50 का नहीं होगा. फिर भी वो खर्चा करता है. Yeah, they are doing 100% vaccination. So now, right now, the MSD has tied up and it is not available for anywhere else in the world.
okay, this postpartum vaccination is a good point?
PPIUCD.
can start counseling and start giving in the postnatal period. At that time, she is more sensitive and more receptive actually. And she has a new responsibility in the form of her offspring. So
She just
take
took
care.
right.
Yes. So we should counsel her start from the antenatal period only.
Thank you.
After vaccination, how long she should wait to give, if she is planning for pregnancy?
No, you don't have to wait. You don't have to wait. If she gets pregnant, you can just continue the future dose later. Don't ask her to wait. Just go ahead. It's not like MMR or rubella vaccine where you have to wait.